Hello guys, NautoAce here, and this will be another law thoughts. And it's been a while giving my thoughts on SwitchForce. And this video was originally recorded on June of 2022 after he kind of addressed of why do people kind of extremely criticize him. So it is kind of unfortunate. I don't think that SwitchForce is a bad guy, but there are something that a lot of people were kind of making notes of why kind of felt like criticizing SwitchForce, and I'm going to explain it on this video here. So with that, once again, this is another Lost Thoughts, was originally recorded on June of 2022. Enjoy. Hello guys, NautoAce here, and this will be sort of an interesting video, believe it or not. It's related to everything Nintendo and its community to some extent. Yes, so during my Summer Games Special 2022, I actually talk about the story about the Nintendo Direct drama and how the super fans that I knew they were going to do some reaction. And we've been following lately what's happening. There's some frustration again. There's some joyness to some extent. But a lot of it is that it's hard to be a Nintendo fan and a Switch-only owner fan, because to some extent Nintendo themselves or the other companies are not throwing a bone to this Nintendo fans. So you've been following that. It is sort of interesting in my opinion, such as, of course, if you know the Switch Pro story, some third-party games are not going to be on the Switch, or they're going to be later, or the quality is not going to be there, etc., etc., etc. So for a while, if you do notice, when I was talking about Nintendo, such as the Nintendo Direct, and I referenced some Nintendo super fans, but I also talk about this guy. So, of course, I'm going to give my opinion about this person, my critical opinion. So, this is going to be a three-parter video. So, the first one is, yes, I'm going to give my critical opinion about SwitchForce. So, I did watch his latest one about his kind of like his situation to a point that he kind of looked like he's frustrated, and I'm going to give my thoughts of the situation, and I'm going to give a note here in that I don't have a problem with Zach SwitchForce. Like I said, to me, in my personal opinion, I think he's a Nintendo loyalist, and I'm going to explain that in this video there. So that's part one. Part two is the Nintendo super fans and why, to some extent, there's some problem and why the other gaming community sometimes kind of like rub the wrong way, because believe it or not, this has been happening since the GameCube era, believe it or not. So the biggest one I can tell you is when Resident Evil 4 was supposed to be a GameCube exclusive, like that's it, and then Capcom later announced that it's going to be on the PS2. Of course, now if you know about Resident Evil 4, it's in every console, kind of like Elder Scroll 5, Skyrim. And of course, if you just heard, Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to be on PC, PS5, and Series XS. So not even past generation console or the Switch. I mean, obvious reason why. But when that happened, the superfans were not happy. And then the last part is, what's the deal with the Switch Pro story? Why is it interesting to talk about? But at the same time, in the general gaming community, it's like, it's annoying, leaks, pro, blah, blah, blah. Oh, shut up, please. I mean, there's two sides to the story. I'm going to try to give my opinion about it. So, with that said, here's part one. So, I'm going to start with this one, the elephant in the room. So, okay, so for people who don't know who SwitchForce is, he is a YouTuber who talks about everything Nintendo. And I discovered this guy when I was looking for Animal Crossing information. So this guy likes Animal Crossing, cool. He kind of gave us some information about it, but then after a while watching this guy, I kind of noticed, like a lot of people kind of noticed something about him. And I even noticed, like, wait, this guy sounds like, to some extent, nothing personal, like a fanboy to Nintendo. I'm like, whatever. Maybe his opinion, whatever. Because I can be a fanboy. Anybody can be a fanboy. But the solution for that is, it's okay to be like a super fan, but at the same time, try to be logical. Just saying there. I mean, You gotta see the good with the bad. You gotta see both sides of the story. You can't just say, "Oh, Nintendo's good because," and I don't believe that. Like, no, like look at the facts, think about it, and why is it that facts exist? Just saying there. So anyway, yes, he's a Nintendo-centric YouTuber. He loves Nintendo, and you can tell why. So the first thing I always say is, why is he a Nintendo loyalist in my personal opinion? So for people who don't know, what's a loyalist? So there are things called fans. So sort of a level like of fans there. Fans are just somebody who's a fan of a particular franchise, product, whatever. So let's go with Nintendo, since this is all about Nintendo. But at the same time is they can understand that there is some flaw to the particular company with Nintendo. I do. Like, I might like Nintendo. I like to play Mario games, Zelda game, Metroid game, anything from Nintendo, but not all of their games are good, and their beliefs, I don't even agree. The lack of achievement, I've been talking about that. That's why I did in my main channel, the origin of Nintendo achievement went, because ever since the 3DS, there was no achievement. They have their own in-game achievement. Okay, it's a good start, but with the Wii U, with the Miiverse, they could have done it, but no. Iwata said, "Oh, that's the reason Miiverse exists, so you can also create your own achievement." It's not the same. So I can just say, "Hey, look, I did the first jump in Mario Brothers Virtual Console. Ooh, achievement. Do I get some points value? No." So that's the problem to some extent. And even as of right now with the Switch, that is the problem. That's why some people, they don't want to play third-party games on the Switch because there's no achievement. Another one is they're backwards on internet online infrastructure. Remember with the Wii U and the 3DS, your games are attached to a console rather than to an account. So say your Wii U break, that's it. You can't transfer them because of how the infrastructure is so bad that you have to send it to Nintendo support just for it. Again, you can see there. And understandable that to some extent they have no knowledge. So I'm probably going to talk about that on the third part with the Switch Pro. So again, that's what Nintendo fans is. Super fans to some extent. And there's an extreme one. So again, you can be a fan of something at a different level, but as long you're logical at the same time. But sometimes there's this extreme super fan which they don't think logically to some extent. Like some people even say that, I saw this on Twitter, some people can't tell 30 frames to 60 frames because sometimes the games on the Switch, they can't go 60 frames. They said, you can't tell. Oh my gosh. A general consumer, a general gamer can't tell. It's not that hard. So if you say you can't tell, I don't know what you're smoking. Oh, I don't care about the graphics, the performance. I can bring it anywhere at least. I like that. Okay, that's cool. That's a good trade-off, but not everyone's going to agree with that. Just saying. For me personally, again, I prefer to play my third-party games on a more powerful console because I enjoy it more. Better graphics, better performance. When I play Gears of War 4 and 5, I enjoyed it more. And especially with 5, running on the Series X, I can see everything. The definition, the 4K. Because it's easy to get those hidden collectibles because they're so shiny. Like, oh, I see that shiny from far away because of the graphics. So it's not just, oh, it's pretty colors, pretty graphics, oh, pretty. But it helps me as someone who's an old age. My eyes are not that good. I'm like, oh, I can see that because 4K, high def. So again, you might say, oh, that's nothing, whatever. Whatever, potato. Again. So an extreme super fan, they're not going to care. Like, even you kind of give them the facts, kind of like a counterfact. They're like, I don't care. Nintendo's good. Portability, it's good. Not everyone cares. There's the Steam Deck. Review Tech USA, credit to him. He even said that, hey, look, I enjoy more my Steam Deck than my Switch to some extent. And again, for third-party games, because the performance are there. Again, it's not just, it's pretty graphics and performance, but it makes more accuracy. What do you think why FGC competitive players always play fighting games in 60 frame. You can't have a 30 frame fighting game because it doesn't make sense. It's not just shiny graphics, so there's more. Again, there you go. So that's what a super fan is to some extent extreme. Okay, so like I said, SwitchForce, the loyalist. A loyalist is just someone who's basically loyal to a company, but to some extent they still see it objectively. But to some extent, they're not going to call them out. They're going to be negative to a bare minimum, that even so that there are some flaw, they're going to say, okay, there's a problem about, say, Nintendo again, but I think they'll fix it in the long run. Some people will say that, like, give them a chance, give it more time, don't worry about it, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and they're like, well, it just didn't happen. That's what a loyalist is. And to some extent, SwitchForce, I noticed in some of his videos, he was going there, like, he kind of addressed some of the problem, but it's like, it's a minor thing, they'll fix it in the long run. Again, your opinion, but that is what loyalist is. They can still be objective, but to some extent, you're going to have that feeling that when you're trying to listen to them, like, no, Nintendo's still good 90% of the time. Maybe true, but again, to some extent, it's subjective. And I'm going to stop here. So next time I'm going to give my critical thoughts on SwitchForce. So I'm going to let people know. I just want to let people know that I have no problem with SwitchForce, but the way he presented himself on YouTube, in my personal opinion, is sort of questionable to some extent. Not bad, but just questionable. And I'm just going to give my critical opinion about him. So stay tuned for that.